What's up, dudes? Welcome back to another episode of Rhomas Men's Team. Pretty simple. We are a group of guys helping each other make progress towards each other's goals. If you're new to the channel, awesome and welcome. If you want to help support the channel and join our pro team, head over to rhomasteam.com/pro, where you can contribute to us on a donation basis. We also give you access to exclusive content, mastermind groups, etc., etc. So anyway, hope you enjoy this episode, and we'll see you on the team. What is up, dudes? Matt is in an ultrasound appointment right now. So I'm gonna invite you guys. Whoever wants to come on board, I'm just gonna invite. I see 3 people here. I'll invite Kaizen, Ray, and Patty P. If you want to accept the invite, awesome. If not, no sweat. John, I'm gonna invite you up here as well. Let's see. If you want to come on board. Mr. Ray, what is up, brother?
What up, King?
What's going on over there, man?
Just heading back to Toronto from a week in Florida. We are currently in West Virginia, driving north, about 12-hour day today. We spent the last couple of days at Primland, which is a beautiful resort, the size and shape of Bermuda, in just like the end of West Virginia, not the coast side, but the end. And how we doing, John?
John, what is up, brother?
Yeah, my mic's just getting in. How you doing, Wes? Good to see you.
What's going on, man? Good to see you too, buddy. How you been?
I'm doing all right, man. Well, I think since we last talked, sorry, I'm just clearing all these invites. Since we last talked, I moved down to Florida to help my mom recover from surgery that she had, and she's doing good. And I'm looking to move out to California, probably Sonoma County. I've been on like some second and third rounds of interviews lately, and yeah, just kind of getting ready to switch life from easy mode to hard mode kind of thing.
Oh, so. Nice, man. Well, dude, if you come to Cali, when you come to Cali, let me know. We'll link up.
We'll do. Love that.
Kaizen, what is up, brother? How you been?
Good.
Dude, Kaizen, I can't tell you how much I respect you, even though we've never met in person or talked for very long, but like, you just come in like the silent samurai, man. And whatever shirt you have on right now is legit. Yes. What's going on, Kaizen? How you doing, buddy?
Dude, I'm working on like 3 different projects right now. One of them is that AI project I was working on, and now I'm doing augmented reality for this power company. They want me to go in and make like a digital twin 3D model of this power plant in New York that you can wear VR goggles and go in and walk around. So they have like all of their infrastructure you can check out virtually. I'm super excited about that one.
Wow. Nice, man. Dude, if you, and I'm going to put you on the spot here, if that's okay. If shooting from the hip, what is something that you've learned recently, or that you would just say, hey, I wish I could teach the guys this thing, either or like a book or whatever it is, because I feel like you have so much of this untapped wealth to share with the group. And again, I know I'm putting you on the spot, so you can just tell me to go pound sand, and but I would love it if you had some sort of recommendations or any lesson or anything like that.
Yeah, there was a book that I read a long time ago. It's called Lynchpin. I forget who wrote it.
Seth Godin.
Yeah, that one in particular, I feel like really changed how I view working for companies and at places. Whereas like a lot of people, I think a lot of people kind of phone it in. Sometimes they just do what's asked of them, and they don't really like try to make themselves invaluable. And I've got to a point where I'm looking for stuff that's not maybe not like right now is going to be big, but like 5-10 years later down the line, and I want to get involved in that kind of stuff like now, learn exactly what I need to know for that now, and then build my skill set in that area to where when it does become big, I've already kind of been established in that area, especially with like AI, because I feel like that's going to take over most of normal people's jobs as it is.
Dude, and this actually might intersect with some of the stuff with John. I mean, universally. And John, I say that out of love and respect, and I don't know what's going on with the career. But Kaizen, let me know if I'm off here. But I think a good summary of the book Linchpin is basically like, be so good they can't ignore you. Is that sort of like a good summary, Kaizen?
Yeah, it's also like being so valuable that they can't ignore you, and then also making yourself very difficult to replace. So if like a company has you working for them, they can't just fire you one day and hire somebody to do your job the next day. Like you have a very specified skill set in a very specific niche. I forget which way you pronounce it, or whatever area it is that you're doing, to where you know like better than anybody this thing that you're doing, and they can't just go on Indeed or LinkedIn and find somebody to do that. Like you make yourself so valuable that they can't afford to cut you, and then they also are almost guilted into paying you more because you're worth that much more.
Yeah, no, I think that's well said. I don't know if I would combine this with some of Tim Ferriss's work, where he says that oftentimes to really niche into something, it's often the combination of two high-level skills. So, and usually two high-level but rarely married skills. So, for instance, a high-level computer programmer who can talk to people, like who can communicate really well. And John, this is not me giving you any sort of advice; it's just kind of passing around the table here. I think that book Linchpin is absolutely phenomenal. I love a lot of Seth Godin's work, but then maybe marrying that with, and Kaizen has it. I'm guessing Kaizen has this. His ability to communicate and also to like do all of that high tech stuff. I mean, I don't know, Kaizen, am I speaking out of place here? You're probably a bit of an anomaly when it comes to that space.
Yeah, I've done sales previously, so I have kind of a sales background, and that's a lot of communicating with people and trying to understand where they're coming from and fulfill or find the pain points and fulfill their needs in that aspect. And then once you have the skills that can kind of fill those needs, it's easier to kind of communicate like, all right, this is what you need, this is what we can do, and here's what common ground that we can find. Now the only thing to worry about is how much do you want to spend. Right.
Got it. Now, have you found with that particular message, what I have found is I've gone to like sales seminars and classes, and this Ray can comment on this as well, where they teach you those things and then the person takes it too much on board and it becomes way too sterile and clinical of a conversation. Like where it's like, tell me what's hurting you, and then like you write it down. It's like, what's hurting you after that? How bad is it hurting you? Oh, okay, well, we happen to have the solution for that. Like it comes off as way too inauthentic. Have you noticed that? And how have you got around that?
Yeah, that's a lot of. I think a lot of salespeople, especially like early salespeople, fall into that.
Totally.
Where they're like robotic about it, and they're just like, it's almost like transparent that they're focused on the sale and less on the actual person. And a lot of the guys that I've talked to in sales before will say it's more about connecting with that person than it is the actual service or sales need or anything like that first. And then part of being able to connect with people is just allowing you to be yourself, like what makes you funny or what makes you laugh, what kind of things makes you you, and not being afraid to kind of like show that authenticity or like ability to express yourself. A lot of people just gravitate towards anyway, and at a certain point it doesn't really matter what you sell. If you have that kind of magnetism to you, people are going to buy it.
Totally. Yeah, and magnetism is a great word, and this is true in the sales world. It's true in the business world, just in general. True in the work world. It's true in the dating world. It's true in the friendship world. I actually combine this sort of the triad that now you're making me think of is linchpin, be so good they can't ignore you, be really good at persuasion and influence in an ethical way, and also be directionally narrowed. So I got this, and I know it's a terrible person, or maybe some people would think I'm terrible for listening to this, but I listened to the course from Jordan Belfort, Wolf of Wall Street, his sales course. the thing that I got from it was keeping it on a, now obviously he took it way out of bounds, right? But he said that to increase sales volume or to get the sale across the finish line, keep the conversation in a narrow road. So if you have a road and you have the dotted line in the road, like
straight line persuasion, wasn't it?
Yep, exactly. So what happens is oftentimes we let the conversations get way out of bounds for these people who are more susceptible to be like, well, I want the person to like me. So now you're getting away from like the hardcore sterile stuff of asking questions and like being too overly formal. Then you get too overly casual to the point where the person has no idea, are we friends? Are we, is this a business transaction? Then it gets weird. And now you're showing up to my kids' birthdays parties because you want to develop a connect. And do you want to be here? It's just really this weird thing. So keeping it on a narrow-ish directional path in combination. Would you agree or add to that?
Yeah, that's so like in like dating, we would say you want to have outcome independence, whereas like you don't really care. And the same in like sales, you don't care if you get the sale because you have enough abundance mindset to where it's kind of like given, like you're going to get, you already know you're going to get this many sales just by doing the numbers. And if you're talking with people in a way where they don't know why you're talking to them, then that's kind of where you're not doing a good job of making your intentions clear. So like if you were to use it in the dating world, if you're going up and talking to somebody and you started it off by like asking directions, but you never made like a transition into like showing that you're actually interested in dating this person, but you just kept it in this like, okay, where's this at? Oh, that was this, and just keeping it like in this weird level where eventually they're going to be like, okay, well, it was nice to meet you, kind of thing. Yeah. You have it's the same for like sales. You have to at some point be like, okay, I mean, this is cool. We're talking about like what your hobbies and interests and stuff are, but at a certain point, I have to go for the close or say, this is what I'm selling. This is what we offer as a service or whatever it is. If you don't, then you're just wasting your time and spinning your wheels.
Yep, totally. I think Ray has a point.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from John about how he's straddles that line in the job interview process, job hunt process. And Kaizen, what I've called the language I use is don't be emotionally invested in the outcome, right? So John, how do you navigate those two worlds where you apply for a job, clearly you want it, but then you don't come across as desperate, or you have to be willing to say no?
Yeah, man, it's been super interesting. And I've been able to like bring in a lot of the knowledge that I have, that's kind of independent of any sort of like job learnings, just in terms of my own like phrasing. And it's interesting because I was doing some counting. I've applied to over 110 jobs just this month alone. And I've gotten to a couple of second round interviews and stuff like that, but I've applied to literally like hundreds and hundreds of jobs. And there is that need to be emotionally disconnected from the outcomes, because you can be like, oh,
from the rejection.
Really great. Yeah, exactly. And there's even opportunities where I've been like, wow, I never really thought that I would be interested in this, but suddenly I am. And then like that's the one that gets back to me the quickest with a rejection, and it's like, oh, that's cool. Like it's just a good kind of steady practice, and just keeping with my my normal routine, and even just like embedding little things. This author that I like is constantly saying, get your ass where your heart wants to be. And, just kind of like dropping that, because people are like, well, why do you want to move across the country? Why do you want to do this? Like, why have you been absent from the job market for a period of time? And it's like, well, I haven't been absent. I've been helping friends. I've been taking on different projects. But, I know my own personal budget. I know what it takes to get me to where I need to be. I know that, I'm betting on myself for these opportunities. And it just seems like people really respond to that. And even if people don't have a specific like role if they're like, okay, so you applied for this role, but like we actually see you as more of like a person who connects people and gets the best out of what we already have, and then we'll just fill that role with somebody normal. It's like, it's a really cool, super positive thing to hear. But at the same time, like, it's been very different from other job searches that I've done. And fresh out of college, I did a 10-year stint with a company where, I really grew the brand. I was able to do a lot of cool things, like writing down everything that I did from the two jobs, the two titles that I had at that company doesn't really make sense. So it's always just easier to talk about it. So, there is that kind of like one side of don't get too excited when you're submitting resumes, because a resume is just a way of somebody, claiming that they looked into somebody, but it's more about engaging them when they talk with you and just being very honest. And it's different being a seller, not a buyer in the job market, because I've just been, a lot more confident in myself through all the work that I've been doing, through all the reading that I've been doing. And it's just been, paying off in a lot of different ways. Actually, just got another message from a job right there.
Awesome.
So, yeah. So, I mean, it's been super positive, and I'd say, like, I'm noticing little areas where just keeping up with the practice, keeping up with the scorecard, being confident, not getting frustrated when things don't work, because I think that there's an unfolding of everything, and things are going to work out the right way that they're supposed to. It's just I get to have a little bit of say and influence, instead of being like, oh, well, this job wants me to go to San Francisco and they only want to pay me hourly and it's a 6-month contract, but I could really show them. It's kind of more like that's not hitting the markers that tell me that this is an intelligent move. So it's been very interesting and very worthwhile. And in terms of like books and reading, I'm trying to find the one book I didn't buy on Amazon is the one I'm thinking of most. But there's just a lot of stuff in terms of like confronting the difficult situation and having those difficult conversations early on, so that people are aware that, hey, like, this is the reality of the situation. Like, authenticity is very important to me in my job search, in my life, and it's when I'm inauthentic that I feel the least confident in what I'm doing. So just trying to get people on board with that mentality that I have, and doing the things that matter to me is very interesting.
John, can I throw something out to you, brother to brother?
Please do.
Let me ask you this: how long have you been looking for a job? So give me like the raw metrics. And no, we don't
Sure.
like if I were to have a spreadsheet. So it's like how long have you been looking for a job, and like really looking for it? How many have you applied for? How many interviews have you had? And again, don't let me, if this is a raw nerve, don't let me push on this, but as a teammate and a brother, I want to say, like, let me dissect this if you're okay with it. Let the guys dissect it if you're okay with that.
Absolutely, please. I think it's very interesting, especially given the times and the narrative of nobody wants to work or nobody wants this. So I have been receiving interviews since March 17th of last year. I have applied to, I had to trash my spreadsheets because I was just applying to so many things that I was like, I'm not going to keep up on these. I don't even care anymore, because it was in the hundreds. It was like I've probably applied to over 600 jobs. I mean, 100 in this past month is, and then there's an ebb and flow to it too. I'll apply to several, and then I'll get some interviews, and that'll cause me to lax on applying to other things. But I've sort of realized, oh no, you keep interviewing, you keep applying even more when you're getting these interviews, because you don't want the lulls, because if these positions don't settle out and don't shake up into what you want. But I would say just dealing with my own self-sabotage and my own deprecation of what I feel like I deserve. I've been applying to jobs nationally since last March. I was a little more focused on the Maryland, DC area, especially in March, April, May, and then really kind of switched into, all right, let me figure out where I want to be. Took some trips in June and July, started applying to some places in California, really in like August, September. And the whole time keeping remote possibilities on the table, and I have a lot of event career in my mirror. So it's been interesting, even riding the ebb and the flow of like this position's been posted since January, but they didn't really start calling people until March. So there's just been like a little bit of that, but I was keeping a spreadsheet. I was being very balanced about it, and then I kind of realized at a certain point, it was as much about volume and getting people to talk with me so that I could sell myself as opposed to sell what's written out on the paper. But I've gone through, I've redone my resume 4 times. I've redone my cover letter 3 times at least. I stopped sending cover letters recently because it hasn't been worthwhile, because it's more about getting in the door and talking to someone. And so many times it's like, if they're actually getting hundreds of applications, are they really reading all of the metrics? And I've redone things so that it's optimized for job search engines and things like that, and making sure that I'm taking key phrases from their posting and putting it into my resume. And it's been very interesting. Yeah. So
hold on, let's pause real quick. Mm-hmm. So now this, in my opinion, and you guys keep me honest, like all the team keep me honest, this is a huddle where we get together, and so like we get together, brace ourselves so we can help a guy get him up, like, if that makes sense. And John, I say this literally purely from love. What Jordan Peterson talks about, he says, one of the problems is, like, if parents don't do the dirty work, they leave the dirty work for somebody else in the future, but very few people want to do that dirty work. So if you don't mind me saying this, yeah. Oh, nice. Love it. So I'm going to do, if you don't mind, do you mind if I try to do some dirty work right now? And if you hate me, it's purely love directed towards you. And you guys, please keep me honest. So I just timed you. So, and I timed you after a minute of list. And I think already after, like, you were probably a minute deep. And then I timed you at that point. I was like, okay, because here's what I think there might be a pattern wrong. There's nothing wrong with you, but there might be a pattern that's off. So I asked you, how many jobs did you apply to? How many interviews have you had? And it's 2 minutes later, and I still don't have an answer. Ray and Kaizen, am I off here, or am I correct?
Sorry, John. He's spot on.
Yeah,
you don't have to apologize.
Yeah, and this is good.
I don't mind.
Yeah,
I mean, I did answer the question. I said hundreds of jobs in the first sentence.
I get it.
But
your audience.
Track. Yeah, but I'm more of a storyteller.
No, I love it, and that's the thing. And this feels uncomfortable. Like, it feels. If I had emotion, it would feel uncomfortable to me. I can sense that other humans would feel this to be uncomfortable. So I'm saying this purely as, like, we're on the great thing is you're in the arena, right? You're doing the work. So now as teammates, we're all doing the work together and saying, like, let's figure out how to get this guy going, getting even better. I have a funny feeling that this might be one of those patterns that if you just tweaked it a tiny bit, that all of a sudden some of those things would start to catch. If I had to guess what the nucleus of this is something, I don't want to say deeper, because I don't want to make it so like so abstract where it's like you can float off into the abyss with it. It's something around, like, what I would want to see in you is like more decisiveness. Right? It's like, here's how many jobs I applied to, boom, boom, boom. And that's going to play itself out. So I'm going to imagine as these interviewers are asking you questions, it's probably a similar journey out into this, like, abstract world, and storyteller phenomenal. But if they're asking questions and they're not getting what they feel to be the answers, and this is why it's good we have numbers right now, because I say, hey, I'm still not clear on the numbers. And then you say, hey, well, I told you the numbers. But the rest of the guys say, well, I'm kind of unclear too. And we're all speaking from a place of like we're all hugging together right now, man.
Yeah, dude.
So I don't know.
See, and I think even in my response, I think, like, I felt like I answered the question. So then I told the story to further clarify it. Yep. And that's definitely something that I do. And Patty, I see your invite in the bottom. I'm down in Southwest Florida right now, but appreciate the invite. I'd love to check you out sometime. But yeah, I mean, I can definitely see that, and I think at the same time, I find my best strengths in in telling the story, in you know, trying to see where I'm a fit. I have people who ask me, you know, why do you think you're going to be a fit here? And I prefer to ask them, why did you select my skill set as a fit for you? So,
Ray, you're about to say something, bud.
Yeah, one of the I got a career coach for the job interview process, and one of the most devastating exercises was he
Oh shit! Right during the hold on, you're gonna have to repeat that. You literally cut out.
Okay.
That was a marketing tactic. One of the best, most devastating exercises ever in my life.
So, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
yes.
He filmed a mock interview where he asked me the questions, and I replied as if it were an interview, and I didn't like a tween girl, you know, in the cafeteria. I answered every single question by starting with like.
Mm-hmm.
So you're asking me of my experience. Like, I think it was something as I said it 60 times, or it was like I started my education. My favorite experience was, and so 60 times, the only thing that they're going to take away from that interview is raise the guy.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I think if so that's something we could think about doing with John, and not
I do
just
a lot of absolutely
not just because John's our project or anything, but like, yeah. And so, but like, I think Wes, that for me was able to convert me from, I'm a fun, personable guy with great communication skills, to strictly working on my effectiveness.
Yep.
In that format.
Totally. Yeah, and the thing is, like, you got to take it, just like John Gottman says, you have to take it. It's not you, Ray. It's just this external pattern. So we have to remove it from ourselves and say, okay, what is that? This is not me. I can actually change the pattern. But you can't do that. It's too much. If it's too much of an identity thing, then that's too hurtful. So we'll start to develop defense mechanisms around it. It's like, first extract the thing. Now it's a separate entity. That separate entity called that pattern of likes, blah, 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 where you sound like a valley girl, right? Like, now we can fix that. But if we're so attached to it, and like, let me ask you this. For example, Ray, I'm going to assume you were on a certain number of interviews prior to getting that coaching. Is that correct?
I don't recall. I think that, I don't recall. But I can assure you that it was because of the unnatural format of an interview, the stressful, time-sensitive format of an interview, that I acted. So I can imagine I was like using the same kind of uncomfortable language, not just job interview, but like when someone walked into the store and I had to sell them something.
Got it.
You know, this kind of reflexive, verbal crutch.
Right. If you had to guess, do you think the problem existed prior to getting that critique?
Oh, yeah. I remember when we did something else when we were filming a documentary and I was on the phone in a stressful conversation. I would lick the sides of my mouth. And like Sarah had already said action. I knew the camera was on me. And I was licking the side of my mouth like a fucking otter or gerbil or something. Yeah. Anyway, you know what? John actually saw me. So John came to Palm Beach for the day on Saturday or something. And it was like bring your son to work day where we went to a bunch of galleries and he actually saw me in action, like shopping for a $10 million painting. These things take months. So like it was just the very first conversation.
Yeah.
But I was so emotionally depleted after that hardball conversation with that gallery. John, were there any verbal tics that you noticed that I did during that interaction?
You know, I wouldn't say verbal tics. If anything, I was more concentrated on the reaction of the group and like specifically the guy in all white. I think his name was Dan or something like that.
Ben Brown. He's like a mega art dealer. Yeah.
I mean, I just feel like that was one of those. You know, I don't know who you are. Like, let me put up my walls. Oh, okay, you've passed this test.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, you've passed this test, and just you keep whittling down closer to the center of the tree, sort of thing.
Yeah.
The gatekeeper role.
Yeah. Now, Ray, to keep it narrowed here. So
yes.
you think the problem the problematic pattern existed prior to getting that critique, right?
Yes.
So how many other people have actually told you about that problem?
0.
Exactly. That's the whole point, is that like, now think about it, if you never stumbled on this coach and he never told you that, you'd be talking like a Valley girl, as a 55-year-old man. So that's the
Right.
dirty work. Somebody did that dirty work
45,
for you.
but go ahead.
No, I'm saying like eventually, like, you become 55.
Even yeah, I got you.
So John, I throw the ball back. Oh, actually, let me pass the ball to Kaizen. Kaizen, anything that you think that I think is out of place, or anything that you would add or critique on any of it?
No, there's I've been talking about this with one of the guys I'm training right now. It's your RAS. I think they talk about it in the straight line. Your RAS is your reticular activation system. Mm-hmm. So it's literally like your awareness. So if you think about your brain like a computer, like the world around you has like everything that you can touch, smell, see, hear is all different like inputs. So you can only really process so much of it at a time. Mm-hmm. So by like bringing awareness to certain things, as an example, like if you have a green car, you're going to see a lot more green cars just because you're more aware of it. If somebody hasn't pointed out something like that before, you're not even like looking for it. Whereas like now, if you record yourself talking, or I think that's actually a really good idea, is do like a mock interview over Zoom with somebody and record it and then watch it back and see what you do. And kind of, because I had to do that with like sales presentations and stuff before, and I would cringe at certain stuff I would do, but that makes you aware of it when you're doing it, so you can cut that kind of behavior out. And also I think it helps build like confidence in yourself. Like when you start doing things right, you can kind of build off of that, and people are able to kind of like pick up on that, especially like in an interview process where you're literally like selling yourself. So if you're confident in like this company, not only should they hire me, but they should probably hire me for more than what they're thinking, and I can take on responsibilities faster than what they probably assume, and just apply that in whatever way that you can kind of see fit.
Totally.
Yeah.
And John, just so you know, I would, if there's any way at all that I can help at all, I'm 100% on board. The only thing I would ask, and I think Kaizen is spot on, probably getting somebody, or several people to help you do a mock interview. And again, you can tell us all to go pound sand. We are all speaking from a place of like, we're on the same team. But if you would like to do that, all that I'd ask is like write down, actually you didn't have to do it, but if you want to optimize it, write down the common questions that you're receiving, and then literally write down some answers, like literally script them out or just bullet point them out, and then ping me. I think you might even have my cell phone number. I'm not positive, but send me a message or send me an email, and I'm happy to do a couple rounds of a mock interview. And I will be hard on you, which is good. Like any interview going through me, like literally like Wall Street level interviews, which are, and I'm not pounding my chest, but I would challenge you to find a more difficult interview process than people on Wall Street. So I will give you that level of critique. As long as you can take it, like it's out of pure love and trying to help you and your family, just like you would help me and my family. Ray, what's up, buddy?
Yeah, dude.
I can't hear. I think Kaizen and John are frozen on my end, but so I'll just put the question out there. First of all, John, take Wes up on the offer. Like that is the most uncomfortable, but the most beneficial thing you can do. I promise you, the most uncomfortable, the most beneficial. And then the second thing is that's something we did in my Sandler sales training last week. Is where we split. It's a Zoom call, but we split into groups of 2, and we took turns being the buyer and the seller and giving like honest feedback about the girl. Like she just burned through her whole. Hi, thanks for taking the appointment. We are the number 1 provider of Salesforce, support. And my for example, so she hit all her build points. She knew what her company did really well, but I said, okay, try it again. But after every question, say, is that okay? Like, the upfront contract where, like Wes, you know the trick where you just said, can I give you some advice, John? Is that okay?
Yep.
By getting the verbal acquiescence every 30 seconds, it keeps them engaged. Small things like that, where she worked really hard on, she did her homework, but that kind of feedback she would only get if she was practicing it with somebody, right?
Totally.
Second thing I wanted to get the advice from Kaizen and you, Wes, is something that really clicked with me. Like the best eureka moment I've had so far in my sales is he said, have you ever had this situation where in terms of follow-up, if you don't know what to do, because if you email them, you feel like you're nagging them. And if you don't email them, you feel like you're not doing your job.
Ooh.
It's just kind of like stuck in this limbo. And I think that it's probably, following up with a girl after a date for sure.
Totally.
And then also following up,
question.
like John following up with a employer after an interview. How do you fight through that kind of like no man's land?
Oh, dude, Kaizen, if you don't mind, I'll let you take the first stab at this. I have my own version of the answer, and it's a phenomenal question.
Yeah. If you want to apply that to like on in the dating world, most of the time, if it goes really well when you're meeting with somebody,
Wes, I'm going to log in and log out again so I can hear them. Okay.
Yep.
If you if you solidify the interaction enough and create enough of an experience, then it's almost like a guarantee that they want a follow-up. So like if your initial meeting or talking to somebody, whether it be an interview or sales or whatever it is that you're doing, if you make sure that you're like connecting with them, you're making eye contact with them, you're understanding the emotions that you're making them feel, and you're trying your best just to provide like a positive interaction with them without being like in like a scarcity mindset, or you want to be like in a form of an abundance, whether that be sales, whether that be an interview, whether that be dating or whatever. It's not like needing it and having that like viscerally come through to you, but making the interaction to where you're giving so much value that, again, it's that magnetism effect. Like if people want to like talk with you again, or they want to buy whatever it is you're selling, it's because you have that effect on them. They want to come back, and it's almost like a drug, so to speak. Like you want to be a drug in a way that people are hooked on you and they want to do it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
I like employing the use of a vacuum. Any kind of time that you can kind of create that vacuum.
Yeah, totally. Now, Kaizen, what I'm hearing in your answer is much of the follow-up problem is solved preemptively by being so attractive that you at least minimize dramatically the level of follow-up that you need. Am I hearing that correctly? Okay.
Yeah.
No, completely. Kaizen is so right. I found Kaizen, at least in my own personal life and in business and sales, that there's still let's say a small percentage of the pie left over where they do want to do business with you, or they do want to go on a date with you, but life has distracted their RAS away from you. So now let's say for that piece of the pie, what I have found works best, Ray, to answer your question, is literally, and by the way, and I say that because I know that I have been that small part of the pie, where like I literally want something. So right now, for instance, I'm looking at, anybody see that like iron neck thing, where you like you put it on your head and it's like a halo thing, and you strengthen your neck. So like I've been wanting to purchase that for a long time, but life has gotten me distracted. So literally it's in my browser right now. I've searched this last month and the month before and so on. Then I heard it on Joe Rogan. So that is an example of something that I want, but other priorities have kind of like shifted my eyesight to that thing. Whereas if I had it probably would take like literally one sales call from one salesperson just saying, hey, like we saw that you searched this, like what can I do to help support you? So I'm not in the category of I don't want it, or like I pretended like I wanted it, but now I'm away from the sale. So now for me, I have found, Ray, to answer your question, that two things. Humor is one of the best ways, right? Like, and I'll send a meme, or I'll send some sort of like stupid little thing, because it like sneaks in under there. Like sometimes I take a picture of myself going like, remember me? Like some stupid shit like that, right? Like, You know, some like weird stuff, because it gets people to laugh, and they're like, oh, that's now an excuse. And you could do that in perpetuity. If every time you interact with somebody, they're laughing, you can follow up them literally a million times. Versus like what a lot of people do is they use a really weird thing. It's like, hey, haven't heard from you. Everybody's gotten that text message. If like you're in the dating world and like the girl texts you back, it's like, hey, you're like, I'm not responding to that anymore. There's no way. Everybody knows what that's like. Hey, so I haven't heard from you. That's like, dude, it's just too much. It's too much of a heavy lift on that person who's like being chased. You don't want to do it. So guys, any feedback there? Has that resonated with anybody where you've used something similar?
Not too heavy?
Yeah, totally.
I've had the very positive outcome of like sending a video message of someone just being like, hey, what's up? Like, just super short and quick. And I don't know, I got a lot more engagement from that.
Yeah. Now, so humor has been one way. I try to use that 85% of the time. There is 15% of the time where I will literally say, Ray, to your question, and this might be more comfortable with some people, but my full recommendation is humor. And if like, you can't be humorous with a client or with a girl or with a friend, like why are you even interacting with them in the first place? Like, it's probably not worth it. But 15% of the time, sometimes I'll just say like, hey, no pressure at all on my side, just reaching out to do my job so we don't fall through the cracks. Right? That's a very simple way if you're not really comfortable with the humor aspect, but honestly, I would just choose humor almost every single time.
Right, and it sounds like you're searching for the no. You're just trying to confirm the no when you're like, hey, no pressure on my side. You can say no. Just want to make sure I'm doing
it comes
my
off
job.
a little like this, right? Like what Kaizen is saying. It's come off from a needy perspective. I don't like that. You can say in a way that's more authoritative, just like, hey, like I need an answer, which I think can work really well. But I really like the humor aspect. Like really, if you come off as authoritative, you basically only get one shot at that, because you can't say, hey man, Kaizen, I need an answer, just so you know, because I'm busy. And then I can't say it again 2 days later. And then again 2 days later, because it's like, is this guy really fucking busy? Like, you know, multi-level marketers like try to do this all the time, right? Like, it's like the hard sale, and it's like, exactly,
Well, that
So now,
commercial
I
where
will
you
also
see
say,
that commercial where you see like, order in the next 10 minutes and you'll get the free knife sharpening.
free Snuggie, free flashlight.
But then it's like every day.
Exactly. Then you start to diminish your word in their minds and also in yours. Like, and that's where you get down a road that's just like, it's very, very deteriorating and toxic. I would say if you're going to use the humor, and Ray, this is what you're great at. If you're going to use the humor thing and you know that you're going to use that as a follow-up tactic, then you should be adopting it early on in the process. And if you're going to adopt it early on in the process, so then the person starts knowing you as like, oh, this is an authoritative but funny, confident, like, what do they say, Kaizen, in the book, The Game, like cocky funny, right? Like that gives off a vibe of like, I'm going to be cocky funny because I feel so confident in myself and comfortable that regardless of whether or not you reject me, I'm going to have a fun time regardless, with or without you.
Right. That rapport is created early on.
Yeah. So then it's like, you have to bring that on early in the process. And if you're going to bring it on early in the process, then why not start to bring it on and integrate it into your personality naturally? So now you're practicing this stuff all the time to where it becomes reflexive. You know, what do they say, Kaizen? You probably know this. It's like, it's unconscious incompetence, then it's conscious incompetence, then it's conscious competence, then it's unconscious competence. So going through that full spectrum. So this is why people say, well, I'm not going to do that. Like, I can't practice being funny. It's like bullshit. Stand-up comedians do it all the time. Talk to Matt. He did it all the time. Right? But first, you're not conscious of it. Then you have to become conscious of it. And it's going to feel weird when you're consciously practicing it. It's going to come off as very robotic, very mechanical. But eventually, you get so good at the dance where it gets in your movement, into your natural body. And then it's like, then we call those people naturals. Like, Tiger Woods not a natural. He's been practicing, right? Like, for so long. That dancer's not a natural. He's been practicing for so long. That guy who's in the interview is not a natural. He's just been practicing so long.
Yeah.
Kaizen, would you think that's fair?
From, if you don't mind me asking? Conscious competence and on back.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, Kaizen, I don't know. Like, I feel like it's just when you start to study marketing, you start to go to like all these like seminars and all, like it starts to get picked up and it just gets mentioned over and over again. Kaizen, would you agree?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it is very much a pattern. It's a pattern in the dating world, pattern in the marketing world. So it is for sure a very workable mental model and real pattern in life.
Yeah, if you think about it like driving, like when you first start driving a car, you're like overly thinking, oh, I need to use the turn signal, and I need to make sure I'm at the speed limit. And now if you've been driving for like a few years, you can completely almost like zone out because you're so autopilot. You're not even having to think about it. It's like second nature.
Yeah.
In flow states.
Yeah, it's like everything goes into that floodlight consciousness. So your spotlight consciousness can be on, sending a quick text or, I text when I drive, but yeah. Yeah.
And the issue is like most of the time, most of the time we are becoming a very unconscious, competent human at negative patterns. Right, what Ray was saying earlier, the uhs and ums and licking inside of his lips and all that stuff, he's becoming unconsciously competent at a very poor pattern. And it's not until somebody like lets us know, brings that into our RAS, or into our consciousness, where it's like, oh shit, now you have to do the legwork. Cool. So I think we're good. Anything else added to this? Yeah, Gunther, you're exactly correct. No need for iron neck. I just need to eat more. Dude, I've got the smallest chicken neck ever. I think I'm a 14 and a half. Like, if not like 14.25. It's like crazy.
You do mewing? You do like mewing or anything like that?
I feel like that just works on like the upper muscles here. I need like the whole thing. Yeah. I got the biggest chick neck ever, dude.
Somebody recommended another product. Given said.
It wasn't a homicide. Let's see if they lower cost. Okay, cool. Hell yeah. Try to avoid saying you can. Change that.
Well, dude, thanks for the page of notes. I appreciate it.
Oh, hell yeah, dude.
Yeah, I hope that benefits you, John. I know it benefits me. Like, the things we're talking about are, these are kind of universal skills.
Yeah, dude. Well, even in just the way that I reacted to being timed, I was like, nope, you got triggered there.
Yep, totally. It's totally normal.
Yeah. I sunk to my damn level of training of being triggered. So yeah, absolutely. No, I
dude,
appreciate
I felt I was hurting for you, John. I was that cut me when he held up the clock.
It was like, you're recording me while we're talking. It's like, you said this.
Are you evaluating me like you said you would? But John, take him up on that offer, bro.
Valuable lesson. Valuable lesson.
Totally. Kaizen, anything to add to that, bro?
Literally, right, what you were just talking about, like doing stuff to where you become unconsciously competent of it. One thing that you can do is focus on putting yourself in a good mood or finding something funny and laughing at that, and just doing that literally like all the time. And that little thing right there, I think, will make big waves in the rest of your life.
Totally, dude, totally right. Literally, it's so funny. Literally in my YouTube library, you know how you can save playlists? I literally have a playlist that says feeling emotion. And that is, for me, I created the playlist. I was like, oh, this is how humans feel emotion. So I need to watch stuff to get me to tap into that. I swear to God, dude, it works every time. Yeah. So like getting yourself like immersed in that environment. So true. And so Kaizen, I super appreciate it. Ray, I super appreciate it. John, you can send an email if you want to my personal email, west2302@gmail. I think you probably already have it. west2302@gmail.com. And here's an exercise for you. Like, if I don't get back to you, I get a million freaking emails a day, just like all of us do. Mm-hmm. So if I don't get back to you, it's not personal. Like, keep on reaching out to me. Like, that's another exercise, and just like the follow up. So I'm telling you, I want to help you, if you don't mind me saying that. So I'm in that category of like, I'm a buyer for that. But if I don't get back to you on day one, it has nothing to do with you. It's just I'm off on a million different things. So,
well, even if it's something where it's like,
yeah, exactly. Spirit.
Even
fingers,
if it would be something like 15 minutes, like, hey, can we do a 10-minute call? Because even some of the screening calls and stuff like that, I go too deep into the unconscious repetition of things. So,
dude,
your favorite Game of Thrones episode and that kind of thing, right?
Actually, if you don't mind, let's do the real thing. Like, this is how you will really get my counter. I'm going to sound like so freaking bougie right now. But this, like, if we want to expedite the process, let me look this up. And I'm so sorry. Like, please, just I'm telling you, this is going to be the most effective thing. Send an email to my assistant. I will put her email.
You want me to send you an email to ask for your assistant's email?
No. So I just put her email and it's in the chat. That's like a guaranteed way to get on my calendar. Because then I won't get tied up in logistics. And so if you want to take me up on it, then we can kind of go from there. Cool, dudes. You guys rock. Thank you so much, John. Love you, buddy. Appreciate everything you guys have done. Talk to you guys soon. Have a great freaking weekend.
Week. Yep.
Later. Yeah, guys, I love it.